Welcome to Long Game, where we sit down with some of the most prolific athletes in pro sports to talk about legacy.
My dad told me that I was going to be bigger, stronger, I'm going to hit more home runs than him. I didn't believe it.
You were just all gas, no brakes.
It's just expectation and standard.
My dad was like, sports ain't the thing, son. You're just wasting your time.
What do you want your legacy to be?
If I'm just known as a fighter, I'll fail.
And not just legacy under the bright lights, but in all aspects of their life, family, and business.
Behind the bright lights, fighters are suffering.
Basketball is not my pinnacle.
I came from an environment that breeds champions.
We worked with Dame, and we saw Dame every day. Everything you heard about him, that's what it is.
My team here knows I want you to be great. If you're going to be mediocre, I don't want to be around you.
Why is giving back so impactful for you?
Why do I do it? Because somebody did it for me.
We'll uncover how these athletes continue to make a lasting impact.
This is Long Game.
On today's episode of Long Game, I'm headed to East St. Louis to sit down with track and field legend Jackie Joyner-Kersee. Born and raised in East St. Louis, Jackie was one of 4 children. She began running track at the age of 9 and showed promise early, qualifying for the finals in the long jump at the 1980 Olympic trials as a high school senior. As a 2-sport athlete, she went to UCLA for both basketball and track and field. With a heart set on making the Olympic track team, Jackie redshirted for what would have been her senior season to prepare for the '84 Summer Olympics in LA. It was there where she was able to capture the first of her many medals and built a legacy that stands to this day. Well, Jackie Joyner-Kersee, welcome to Long Game. We ask our talent to bring us to a place where it's somewhere special for them, and you brought us here. Explain why we're here.
The reason you're here at the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center is dear to my heart, and not only my heart, but I always say we, the community. It was something that I not dreamed about, but wanted to build a community center in my hometown of East St. Louis, and to bring you here to really share in our journey the things that I continue believe that we can do for the community, for our students, for our families, and trying to inspire them to believe the impossible, is probable.
Oh, it is. As I walk through the front door and I see the Wheaties box cover, I see pictures of you. I'm almost, it's like surreal to have you on these walls and these kids running through this place where I consider you to being as good as it comes. Like, how is that experience for these young boys and girls that come through this community center to see that?
The experience for the young boys and girls that come through the doors, because a lot of them can't really relate because they weren't born, and I've had something, Miss Jackie, why are you famous? Your picture is everywhere, And then if I go and say something about the Olympics, they go, well, what's the Olympics? But through some of their lessons and through some of our programming, is really teaching them really about, for me, is to instill in them to be great human beings.
You've always had, I feel like big shoes to fill. Your parents named you after the First Lady, Jacqueline Kennedy. But how did that happen?
We lived in my great-grandmother's home, and my grandmother, told my mom, that she wanted me to be named after Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis because I was born during that year, and that one day I might be the First Lady or something.
Oh, wow.
And she wrote that on my picture, on the baby picture.
Wow.
And didn't really know the significance, but that it's just been a blessing, and not only to have admired Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis from afar, but to be able to have my name in the same sentence is I'm very grateful and appreciative.
We talk about the community center here in East St. Louis. We know how the community is and demographics. You go from here to UCLA, become a two-sport star. How was that transition coming from here and then moving to a big city like LA?
Going from East St. Louis to UCLA, challenging, from the standpoint of being homesick. Went there on a basketball scholarship, but I still always had my sights eventually coming back home. Went out there with the purpose in mind of trying to be the best that I could be and graduate. But the challenges of trying to deal with the cultural differences, wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be because coming up through age group sports, you're around different people from all different backgrounds, and to me, leaving East St. Louis and going to California was really to focus on my purpose of going out there and not getting caught up in the fast lane, as others would say. And I'm like, on the track, it's the only fast lane I'm going to be in, Right. And then you approach a buyer, everybody wants you to be a model. And I'm like, I'm not no model. I ain't come out here to model, not against it. But,
Right.
But to me, it was always staying committed to the goals, to my own dreams, the things that I wanted to achieve, and never to lose sight of that.
Think about your site. I mean, when you were at UCLA, you were a basketball star. What ultimately, we're talking about vision, pushed you into the direction of choosing track and field instead of basketball?
So the decision to, first of all, when I went out to UCLA to play basketball, I really thought I was too short. And I didn't think, that I would play, not realizing with my jumping ability and my speed. But I always knew in my heart I wanted to make the Olympic team in track and field. And that's because I came through age group track and field program, started running at the age of 9. Wasn't one of the best girls, but it was my desire to become one of the best and to see myself going from 4th place, 9th place, but seeing myself improve a 1/10 of a second if I was running, a 1/2 of an inch if I was jumping, and then having the experience to go to the Olympic trials as a senior in high school and finishing 8th, it gave me hope. And then all of a sudden I go out to UCLA and have the opportunity to do 2 sports, but it was really making sure that I prioritized track and field when it's track and field, and basketball during basketball season. And then also basketball, to me, in track and field, in my opinion, I love the team aspect of it, but track and field is not subjective. You line up, you're in the top 3, you're going. Don't have to worry about if someone going to select me to be on this team or not. And not knowing if I could have made an Olympic team in basketball, but that was never part of my plan. It was really to see if I could make the Olympic team in track and field.
So as you're growing up in St. Louis, you make it to UCLA, did you feel like having this Midwest town in your upbringing, was that an advantage or a disadvantage for you when you made it to LA and ultimately to the Olympics?
So when I went out to LA and went to school, my mindset was that I was one of many All-Staters, one of many All-Americans, and I just wanted to be one of the best. And it didn't matter where I was from. Whatever I'm doing, I'm gonna give my all. No one can outwork me. I'm gonna be coachable, I'm gonna listen, I'm gonna do everything that I can possibly do to put myself in a position where I know that I have not shortchanged myself or shortchanged my ability. And so I think coming from the Midwest, or just coming from East St. Louis, I came from an environment that breed champions, that we knew that the odds are always against us, but still be prepared. Don't let people beat you on technicality. Growing up in a community like East St. Louis, and then a young girl wanting to do sports when the opportunities weren't there, but having coaches who saw the potential in me as well as in others, but it was left up to us to show up every day. And we were always encouraged to go and come back and share what you have learned, and there were plenty of my friends who were probably had more talent than I did, but that just decided that that's not the path they wanted to take. I knew at 14, I wanted to make an Olympic team because I saw it on television. I saw women doing what I was trying to do. And I just really thought if I go to the Olympics, maybe I could be on television. That's all I wanted. Because that was the first time that I saw women, that were really, on the television and people really appreciating their talents, that which inspired me to really pursue athletics and to the highest level.
Competing alongside her brother at the '84 Olympics, who won a gold in the triple jump, Jackie was able to secure a silver medal in heptathlon, finishing just 5 points shy of winning a gold medal of her own.
And Jackie Joyner, it appears, has lost her chance for the gold medal by finishing that far behind.
Jackie went on to win 3 gold medals, has 6 total, and is still the all-time record holder in heptathlon, regardless of gender. Determined to never come up short again, Jackie poured herself into everything she did, not only on the field, but off it as well. Jackie has made it her mission to give back to the community that gave her so much, and also to invest in the youth of her city. Let's talk about the '84 Olympics, though. It's just not you and your family that had excellence. You and your brother competed in the same Olympics. Yeah. How was that experience?
Oh, having my brother Al and myself to make the Olympic team together, it takes me back to our beginnings when I would tease him a lot, because my brother wasn't one that loved to practice, and I went to practice every day. And I always talk about the foot race we had, because he was trying to show off in front of his friends. And I was like, yeah, okay. So we had this match race. And I outrun him to the mailbox. And then I told him, see, that's what practice would do for you, But in '84, make the Olympic team. He beats me to the gold medal. The first person in our family to win the gold medal. Al winning the gold medal in the triple jump. And
what did he say to you? What did he say to you then? He say anything?
No, because he was embracing me because I was like disappointed, but more disappointed because I always believed I just wasn't mentally tough. As an athlete, you don't think injuries come along with what you do, but injuries happen, and I just happened to be injured. But my injury wasn't as bad as I psychologically made it out to be, because I had a bandage on my leg, so to me that means something must be wrong. But and then I missed the gold medal by 5 points. But that was the motivation.
Yep.
So I told him, I said, I told my brother, we embrace, and because my coach at the time, Bobby, and my physio, my teammates, Valerie Briscoe-Hooks winning 3 gold medals. I mean, it was just, the atmosphere was just right. But when you're in that atmosphere and you're not in the right frame of mind, it doesn't matter. And so for me, I knew that if I wanted to be the best in the world, that every day, every moment, second I trained with how I felt, because I fell short, because I doubted myself. Instead of believing in my coach and believing in the people telling me that I'm ready, I didn't believe I was ready because I had a bandage on my leg saying, oh, you injured. But it wasn't as bad as I made it out to be.
Got it. And speaking about people who believed in you and you believe in them, you talk about your brother Al. When it comes to the philanthropic side of things, especially we talk about this community center that we're in, who are some of the mentors that help mold you into thinking the big picture and how to give back?
Growing up, I came to a community center, and the directors over there, and the directors at the community center, and then also the coaches who were a part of when we were going the weekend, because my parents couldn't afford for me to have spending money to eat food, and you do AAU sports, you're out there all day. And my mom would be like, no, you have to just come home and eat. And it was the coaches they would pull up, to the local restaurant and say, go, get something to eat. And I'm like, oh no, I'm not hungry, because my mother never wanted me to begging for something. Right. So, and they say, no, you go in there and try to eat anyway. And I think that was the beginning of seeing the compassion from coaches who understood that you didn't have, but they didn't put you out on Front Street so you could be embarrassed. And so that stayed with me. And also understanding the value of time as well as resources could be financially, but as young people, when we would travel away from home or go off to school or wherever we might have gone, come back and share with the next generation in teaching you about giving back.
Right.
And that's just giving of your time and then eventually be able to give of your resources. So a community of people believing in me, believing in all of us, teaching us, lessons along the way. And it's all in how we interpret that and then in return come back and give back.
Is that some of the stuff that sparked you wanting to create the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Foundation?
Yes, it definitely was a reason behind wanting to build the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center, but it also was because my freshman year in college, and I'm out at UCLA, things are going well, and I just get a unfortunate call that my mom is ill, and I had to rush back home. She ended up passing from the worst form of meningitis, and just being at the hospital and having to make a lot of decisions. I wanted to go somewhere where people could pour into me and uplift my spirit. And I went over to the center that I grew up, and when I went there, they had padlocks on the door. And I just started thinking, where do the young people go? And it was my goal from that moment to open up or reopen that center or build a center, and not realizing that it took resources. Because when you're young, you think you can do everything. You want all these fancy things, but it don't work that way.
Right.
And so I just started off saying, well, I don't need a building to help people. So it started with my church, schools, age group programs, did things with Girls Inc., just did a lot of different things. And then after '88, I went to Seoul, went double gold in Korea, used my sponsorship money, chartered a plane, took 110 kids along with chaperones to the Macy Day Parade because I was on one of the floats and wanted the young people to see, our community is no different than any other community, and that was the beginning. And then 8 years later, we ended up breaking ground, opened the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center in 2000, and here we are. Amazing story.
It is. You've been such an iconic and legacy athlete for so many, including myself. So I can point to you, I can point to a bunch of different people. Who would you point to as someone that you look to and wanted maybe to mirror or mimic their legacy?
Wilma Rudolph was someone that I read about, knowing what she had gone through with polio, not being able to know if she would ever be able to walk, let alone run and eventually win 3 gold medals, in the '60 Olympics. And '84, she was one of the commentators for the Los Angeles Games. And then later on, she was also working with on our World Championship games. And we just she was someone I admire, didn't think she was reachable or touchable. Then she took me under her wings. And I remember having my goddaughter with me. We were in Stuttgart, Germany. And at that time, you used to have to talk about what did you do during the summer, and they had to do a report. And so her dad was telling her to do it on Wilma Rudolph. And she was like, well, who is Wilma Rudolph? And then I called Wilma, and I took Rhonda, is her name, up to her room so she could get a real lesson of who Wilma Rudolph is and, what she has done for women, just not in sports, but just in general, because if you look at Wilma's story, to be, the first to win the 3 gold medals and then have to go back to Tennessee, but not able to eat at the counter because of the color of her skin, but she could be loved and embraced all over the world. But only in her own backyard, they wouldn't embrace her that way. But still, she wasn't bitter. And to me, just having those conversations with her, and she knew, I talked about my community work, the things I wanted to do, and sharing with me, there are going to be ups and downs, but stay true to your mission. Stay true to what you're trying to do.
So amazing. You see how stories are always connected and how it always just trickles down, and you don't know how you're going to affect the next generation, but if you do the right things, hopefully, those things work out, and you continue to do the right things. in 2011, you created the Internet Essentials program to help low-income Americans get internet needs. Why did you do that?
Yeah, so being a part of the Internet Essential was really about the digital divide, bridging that gap, leveling the playing field, and even when we built this JJK Center in 2000, we have a computer lab, and not realizing at that time how invaluable that asset will eventually become, because even like with our students, they have to be on the internet, and homework, all sorts of different things. And even when parents might need to do some research or trying to fill out some job application, to have the computer lab, because access is everything, and sometimes you don't have that. Having that access is a way to keep you connected and informed of what's going on.
Jackie Joyner-Kersee was voted the greatest female athlete of the 20th century by Sports Illustrated and has the hardware to prove it. Her legacy has been discussed, debated, and dissected, but she would tell you her impact extends beyond any track or field. Let's talk a little about your legacy. You started Athletes for Hope with other iconic athletes like Mia Hamm and Muhammad Ali. Give us a little bit of background on how that was started.
Yeah, so Athletes for Hope, we had Mia Hamm, the late Muhammad Ali, Andre Agassi, Warwick Dunn. It was really like a think tank to bring all of us together who were already doing philanthropic work, so the next generation could learn from, the do's and the don'ts. And so being able to share some of our experiences with the next generation as they continue on their journey of wanting to find ways to give back.
You have a worker mentality. I can see it, I can feel it. When you take time, which you probably don't, but we're gonna do it today. I want you to give me that one achievement or event that you won or that you were successful in, that you can look back and go like, that was probably my greatest moment.
For me, my greatest achievement is because my mom and dad were teenagers. Mom didn't finish junior high school, and we talked about if I could go to college, and being able to stick it out when others thought that I would take endorsement deals and not go back to school, but being able to go back and graduate, and knowing that my mother wasn't able to see that, but that's something we talked about, and I lived up to the commitment that I told her that I would do this, and so, yes, the Olympics is great, but that one, from that, and then building this community center.
I'm gonna end with the question I like to ask our guest, but it's gonna be 3 for you, because you're all over the place, okay? Number 1, when we do think about your legacy in track and field, what would that be? And don't be shy.
See, my legacy in track and field, one, being the first woman to score over 7,000 points in the heptathlon, and being the first American woman to win a gold medal in the long jump, and also being able to win the gold medal in the heptathlon and the long jump in the same Olympics and break the world record.
We just gonna keep going. We just gonna keep going. We got all day. We just gonna keep going. I should have asked this last, because the accolades are too much with track and field. We get it. You're the first lady of track and field. Can we just say that? Can we just say it? I'll say it. First lady of track and field. Oh man, amazing. Actually, the same question on the business side. What do you want to be known from a legacy side as a business, as an entrepreneur?
I would say being a connector and bringing people to the community to invest in the work that we're doing here at the Jackie Joyner-Kersee Center.
Love it. And I think it ties into my last one, from the philanthropic side, giving back. Now, what do you want Jackie Joyner-Kersee's legacy to be on that?
So my legacy on the giving back part is that Jackie Joyner-Kersee was a great person that wanted to see great things happen in her community of East St. Louis.
Listen, You're touching all of it. And we want to thank you for being with us on Long Game. This was an honor for me. I try not to be a fan, but today you made it extremely hard.
Thank you.
But thank you for being with us, and this was extremely insightful, and we enjoyed our time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.